to learn. That we're always going to blame our troubles on somebody else. That we're always going to take hatred, fear, and fighting over love, peace, and prosperity. I am a nerd. I've never heard that from anybody. Most who know me would call me a geeky nerd. I collect comic books. I watch Star Trek. I love action figures. And my love of Star Trek is what really put me on that path to peace, because in that show, and even though it was a TV show, there was a world where Earth was just one planet, where humans actually treat each other like one species instead of saying, oh, I'm this American, or oh, I'm this, that, and the other. There was no more separation by color or social status or class or whatever. There was no fighting over currency and resources. And the funny thing is, that setting was set for this day and age, yet we're not there. And we're not there because we choose to not be there. We humans have the power to change things. We have the power to be compassionate. We have the power to be open-minded. We have the power to love. Yet so many take that power and use hate. Why? Because material things are shiny. Why? Because it's easier to feel better about yourself when you think you have it better than somebody else. And that saddens me. I don't care if I ever become a millionaire. I don't care if I ever have a big house or cars and stuff. What I care about is what I do while I still have breath in this body to make people's lives happier and to make those close to me and myself happy. Because happiness is, to me, far better than having a ton of shit that I can't take with me when I go. And when that realization hit me, when I realized that no amount of owning stuff, no amount of material possessions was ever gonna give me the same satisfaction as knowing I did something good just because I could, that's when my life really opened up. That's when I stopped being so suicidal. I can't say it stops the depression all the time, because I take in stuff like a sponge, and it's really easy for me to get depressed in this day and age. It's too easy because people just make me sad. But I am a lot more stable as a person, I'd say, because I realized that I had to let go of the things that don't matter, and I had to focus on the things that do. And if being a nice person, if having a bleeding heart, as they call it, is a bad thing, then I'd rather be known as a bad person at this point in my life. I'd rather be known as a bleeding heart hippie than somebody who has the ability to do good things and choosing not to because somebody doesn't deserve it in my eyes. I've butted heads with people too much in the last couple of months over that mentality, and I'm sick of it. And I have the right to be sick of it, because I see people who have the ability to do good for others, who have the ability to not shun others, and they do it willingly, and they use things like their faith to promote that. And I'm sorry, I grew up in a very faithful family. I grew up with ministers and reverends and Catholic priests, okay? And your faith teaches you to be good to others. So if you tout your faith is teaching you to hate on somebody, if you tout that your faith is teaching you to be afraid of somebody who looks different, who worships different, you do not know your faith. And you might not like me saying that, and you might think, oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about. But I'm the kind of person that does go out and read and take in knowledge and actually get to know people. I'm the type of person that can live in the community and not give a fuck what a person's faith is and go by how they treat me and how I treat them. Why? Because we're all human beings. And in the long run, we are born, we all live, and we all die. And that's the thing that people need to really accept. There's nobody that's better. There's nobody that's so wealthy and popular that they get to live forever. We are all going to die. And if you want to spend your short existence on this planet being full of hate instead of using it to love and make things better for people, I feel sorry for you. And I don't want to be lumped in with you. So if you don't want to be my friend after hearing this or after seeing my post, great. Because I can't surround myself with negative people anymore. I've done that all my life, and I stayed quiet about it. I stayed on the fence, even though I didn't agree with the stances, because I didn't want to rock the boat. But now I'm rocking the boat, because the boat deserves to be rocked. The boat deserves to be capsized as far as I'm concerned, because it's full of ignorance, and it's full of selfishness, and it's full of materialistic me, need. And I'm done. I'm done, and I'm sick and tired of being a part of that problem, and I want to be a part of the solution. So what am I going to do? I'm going to give compassion a chance. I'm going to give peace a chance. I'm going to shout it from the rooftops if I have to. I'm going to go out and give out extra stuff that I don't need. If I see a homeless person and I have something that I can give them to make their life just a little bit better, I'm going to give it to them despite somebody saying, oh, they're just doing that to everybody. Why? Because it's a lot easier to be negative without knowing somebody's situation than it is just to do good because you can. And we've got to get out of that mentality if we ever want a day and age where war isn't tearing us apart, where we can live without fear. It's funny, people want to live without fear, but do everything they can to keep fear alive by keeping ignorant and not trying to learn stuff about people and not trying to embrace people. You're so stuck on stupid and hatred and blindness that you don't realize you're creating the very situation you're afraid of. When you send a refugee family back to a war-torn land instead of opening your doors to them, you are telling them they're not worth shit. And it's just like the gang mentality in inner cities. When you tell children enough times, and young men and young women enough times, that they mean nothing to you, anybody who comes at them and says to them, hey, you do mean something, do this and you'll be embraced. Do this and you'll be a brother, you'll be a part of something big. They'll embrace that. Why? Because society doesn't give a fuck about them. So why should they give a fuck about society? We create the mess that we're trying to avoid when we choose hatred and ignorance over compassion and understanding. And until people realize this, we are going to keep having these conflicts. Now, before I go, there was another thing that I'm passionate about on Facebook, and it was the horrible attacks that happened on France. Now, I had friends on both sides of the coins. I have friends who changed their picture in support, and I have friends who very passionately said why they wouldn't. My only beef with both of them was the fact that there were some friends that really went on the attack when that was the last thing we needed to get the point across, and then there were those who put up pictures and then spouted hatred for Muslim families. And it's like, how are you showing solidarity for the loss of human life, yet condemning a whole bunch of people to death in another breath? That's the complexity of us humans. We've got to stop doing it. Now, my stance on why I would not change my picture, it was not because I didn't feel heartbroken for the people of France, but it's because in the same space of 2 months, we had a ton of people die through terrorist attacks. We had a Russian passenger plane down. Nobody was putting up flags of Russia behind their picture. We had 2,000 people massacred in Kenya. Nobody was changing their picture for those people. We had those girls who were kidnapped by Boko Haram. Nobody was changing their picture to that flag. We had Dutch airliners blown up. We've had the attacks in Beirut. We have the constant attacks in the Gaza Strip in Israel. Nobody changes their pictures for this, yet because it happened in France, who's an ally, all of a sudden everybody wants to show solidarity. We need to start showing solidarity for all humans if we really want to combat hatred. Sadly, too many humans don't really want that, because we have the apathetic who don't want to think and actually get out there and do stuff to change, and then we have those who profit off the fact that hatred and ignorance breed war. Let's face it, folks, war brings money. The more they fight, the more bombs and weapons they sell. The more we kill each other, the more money they rake in, blood money. And it's the sad fact. But if we all got together and finally said, enough's enough. You're my brother. I don't care how you choose your faith. You're my sister. I don't care what kind of clothes you wear or how big or small you are, how big your bank account, how many houses, how many cars you are. We are all one species and we need to work together on making this planet better. They couldn't profit over it. Therefore, they would have to give up the endeavor. But people just don't want to hear it, and they need to. So until I'm blue in the face, until there is nothing left in this body, I'm going to keep saying it, and I'm going to keep pushing for it, and I will take the insults. I will take people who will get offended by what I say, and I will probably lose people I thought were friends behind this. But I will not change my stance because I could not feel good as a person if I did. And I had to say this. I'm glad to get it out of my system. Hopefully I'll be doing a new podcast format soon. I'm going to be helping a friend who is running for office, who is very, very broad with his stance, and I'm going to enjoy interviewing him and seeing how he feels on topics like this. So please stay tuned, and thank you once again for listening.